Hi everyone. So we will be working on our next lesson today, and that is going to be graphing absolute value functions. And so our goal is to be able to graph absolute value functions and also to translate the graph of an absolute value function. So if you would remember, when we talk about absolute value function, this is when your parent function has the two bars and then your variable x is in the middle, okay? Now, the graph of an absolute value function is a V-shaped. So sometimes it's opening upwards, sometimes it's opening downwards. So it just depends on how your equation looks like, all right? Now, when we talk about translation, it's going to be the shift or the movement of the graph either horizontally, vertically, or sometimes you can move the graph on both directions, all right? So let's have some examples here. So how can we describe the translation? So you will see here that this is the graph of the absolute value of x. And how does the second graph, which is written as absolute value of x minus 2, how do they differ or how are they related to each other? So if you're going to observe our vertex, our lowest point on the graph is at 0, 0. Now, taking a look at this next graph, where is it now? So as you can see, basically our graph moved downwards, correct? It shifted downwards and it went to, from 0, 0, our vertex now moved to negative 2, okay? And so if you're going to take a look at the equation, the movement that we saw is actually right over here. It simply says, okay, it went 2 downwards, okay? So the vertex moved over here now, okay? So when you see an equation, an absolute value equation that has the absolute value of the variable and then subtract by a number, okay, you can see that the minus 2 is outside of the absolute value symbol, all right? It is, the graph simply has to go down, okay? So now how about this one? How can you compare these next two graphs? So again, if you're going to use the vertex as your point of reference, originally it's at 0, 0, and now it went upwards, all right? By how much? So you will see here, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It went 4 upwards. So if you would remember from the previous example, okay, so the absolute value of x, that is the parent function. That's the easiest. That's the most basic, all right? Earlier, we had absolute value of x minus 2. What did it do? It went 2 downwards, okay? Now, this time, we went 4 upwards. So what will be your best guess on how our equation would look like? So the absolute value of x, it went upwards. If going down is subtraction, then going up would be addition, all right? And we are moving by 4. And so we can say that this is going to be how the graph of this the equation of this graph on the right side, okay? So again, the question is, what is the graph of the absolute value of x plus 2? So from our previous example earlier, when we have absolute value of x minus a certain number, it goes downward. And so if we have absolute value of x plus, then it is gonna go upwards. And how many times is it gonna go upwards? This number tells us. And so the graph of this, it will be, you just have to put it up here. And then when the nice thing about the absolute value graph is that it is diagonal on both sides. So you just use those points diagonally, okay, from this point. And so that, oops, sorry, I'm trying my best to have it as straight as I can, all right? So that is how the graph of absolute value of x plus 2 would look like, okay? Oops, sorry about that. So the graph, I pretty much mentioned that one already. If you have the plus sign outside of the absolute value symbol, it is going upwards, okay? So here's a next example. Why don't you try this next example on your own? Graph y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 7. Go ahead. All right, so again, from our discussion, when we talk about vertical translation, when you have plus, it's going to go up. If you have minus, it's going to go down. The graph is going to move downwards. By how much? This number will tell us, all right? So we know that the graph of absolute value is a V shape, and it's from 0, 0, and then diagonally moving, opening both ways. So all you need to do is move down by 7. In our graphing area, 7 is, we can only have it by 2's here. So you would see that 7 is going to be here. And so showing the graph, this is how it would look like. All right.